It's April, and some things are winding up like baseball, and some things are winding down like hockey. Thankfully, Pennzoil Synthetics provides your vehicle with complete protection for top engine performance no matter what season it is. So you don't have to worry about ups and downs. Pennzoil. Make the switch.
Caught Offside with Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney.
Lamar throwing his body in. It's going to fall for Ibrahimovic. Oh, come on! Come on! Considers his Boateng open on the near side. Instead looking for Ibrahimovic. He knew he was offside. He left it alone. Cole picks it up. Cole's cross. Ibrahimovic! Oh, are you serious?
Oh, yes! Caught offside from the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney. What's up, brother?
Oh, the Lion, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, man. John Strong on Fox. The debut of Zlatan. Wow. I mean, it was one of those things as you're watching it, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later in the program when Alexi Lalas joins the show. Very excited about that. He was there, of course, but you're watching it, and on the first goal, Zlatan comes in, which was not a guarantee coming into this necessarily that he was going to play. So just seeing him come into the game, it's like, oh, it piques your interest a little bit.
Sure.
And then they score the goal. It's 3-2 now. And then before that goal that he scored to tie the game at 3 even went in, just seeing him, like the thought process of, oh my God, he's going to do this. I started screaming like while the ball was in midair. It might have gone 40 yards over the net, but I had already like gone all in on, I'm going wild here no matter what happens. And sure enough, it's the goal of the season up to this point. If you're going to tell me that there's going to be a better game this season in MLS, I don't know if I believe you. I think you might be crazy.
Yeah, no, the context of it, the first derby, everything that went with it, the fact that LAFC, the noisy neighbours, went straight out into the lead. But I just love the anatomy of the volley. I just love the anatomy of that goal in the way that he struck the ball. Because you know what I think about volleys. They're just a rare beauty. Not a rare beauty, a beautiful...
Kind of rare.
They are kind of rare, especially like that, because... Like I was saying to a friend today, it sat up and he could have taken it like a dipping volley where you almost punt through the back of the ball and it dips over the goalkeeper. He slashed at it, like put bend on it, outside of the boot, the whole thing. Perfect. Yep. Absolutely perfect. So that wouldn't probably... That probably wouldn't be your favourite strike of the weekend, even if it was the best strike of the weekend.
Yes, we'll talk more about Zlatan later. Like I said, Alexi Lalas joins us shortly. But we get to what you're referring to right now, and Spurs go on and they do it. For the first time in 28 years, they win at Stamford Bridge, and it is a big one, as now there is some real daylight between Tottenham and Chelsea for those Champions League places.
And some real distance between Liverpool as well, if I may.
Absolutely you may.
So it's looking... I'm not saying it's solidified. It's almost done though now. And I feel like it's going to be a race between Spurs and Liverpool to who finishes above the other, and I'm pleased for that.
You know what's really interesting? I feel like as a Spurs fan, I can only provide the insight of what Spurs fans feel. And I feel like oftentimes I think I do have a fairly decent pulse on what Tottenham fans feel about this club. For example, Tottenham-Juve, I think I remember saying that when Juve scored that goal in the second leg to bring it within 1, everyone got nervous. Like there was just a sense of nervousness around Tottenham in that game. And sure enough, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the players seemed nervous, and that was it. By the same token, Chelsea scored to go up. In past years, if that happened to even a good Tottenham team at Stamford Bridge,
you'd be, oh no.
I'd say, oh God, here we go again. Not this year. That goal goes in, Morata scores. I wasn't happy about it, but there was no part of me that thought, oh boy, here we go. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know that it was necessarily play out the way that it did, but that give up, there was none of that in the way that I felt after Morata scored that goal. If anything, Christian Eriksen then goes, he scores the goal right before halftime, which turned the whole game. That give up was in Chelsea. I mean, it seems like the tables have turned, and just the sense of atmosphere around these clubs right now, Chelsea are now, I think, the way they looked on the field after that downtrodden,
right.
It just, the way the whole game turned.
And they'd played well in patches. Hazard was moving really, really well. I thought, you know what? this could be a tricky one for Tottenham. But Tottenham, the thing about Tottenham is they control and dominate games a lot more than Tottenham's of previous seasons. And they keep the ball much, much better, and they work the angles and they create chances even when they are behind. And that strike for me is just such a stunning strike to bring you back into the game right at the crucial moment. And you look at the psychology of going in at half-time, it flips completely.
Absolutely. Now, I know you worship at the altar of David Priest, so I can only imagine that you've just been all over his Twitter since that goal, because there's been a lot of, if you watch the game on NBC, Lee Dixon and Graham Lasso's opinion of what Willie Caballero should have done on that shot from Eriksson was completely different from the guys back in the studio, Martino and Robbie. Which Robbie was it?
It was Musto.
Yeah, Robbie Musto. Where do you stand on that? Is that on Caballero, or is that just a great shot?
Well, first, as I am a Parisian man, he analysed the Lloris goal and actually exonerated Lloris. I say the Lloris goal, the Lloris mistake. He exonerated Lloris on that. He made a case for why his starting position at the post was the issue, not the fact he came for the cross. But
so it's
I'm not
like
so sure. I'm not so sure about that. All right, as good a goalkeeper and an analysis of goalkeeping is, David Priest isn't the final word.
You certainly carry on like he is.
My view, just to annoy you, my view on the Eriksson goal is I don't think Caballero covered himself in glory, but I don't think he's getting into it. Even if he made a better attempt, he's still not getting to it.
You could have flicked that onto the bar?
Jeez, Andrew, the dip on that is so vicious. Yeah. It starts so high above the crossbar and comes down so quickly. The issue for me is its centrality. How many of those have we seen keepers do exactly what you said, tip that over the bar and maybe stay standing up? And the fact that Caballero almost stretches and falls backwards is not a good look. I still don't think he's getting to that. That's one of those where a friend of mine, Aaron West of Copa 90, he tweeted out that he goes, that's one of those when you're playing with your friends and he just hits it perfect and you don't move. It just flies by you and you're like, all right. And I feel that way. I think it was, if you look at the way he catches the ball, it's a perfect strike. Look at the view from behind Eriksson and behind the ball as he strikes it. That's the best view of it.
Yeah.
And the dip, Andrew, it looks like it's going yards over the goal, like comfortably over the bar, and it dips viciously. I'm giving all credit to Christian Eriksen.
And it was such a Tottenham goal in the sense that the way they won back possession, it seemed like, they had that kind of one last push before the half. They lose possession. You think, okay, they'll go into the locker room down 1-0. But then Victor Moses gives the ball right back to Spurs. It gets to Eriksson, and then bang, like I said, the whole game changed. Now, I talked before about the give up that it seemed like we saw in Chelsea. Let's go deeper on that. Here's Steve Nicol talking a little bit about that on ESPN FC.
When that third goal goes in this game against Tottenham, it was like down in tools. I mean, there was absolutely no way on earth this team were either going to get in and back or even fight for it. And I think that's happened so many times. The reason they've lost 9 games is because some games they've turned up and they haven't had the fight.
And that's symptomatic of the dressing room and what's going on in there. Antonio Rudiger was on the pitch afterwards, and he was jokingly asked about would he like to be the manager, or I can't remember the context and when it came about, and he just later, I would not like to be the manager. Meaning, you could tell that the dressing room isn't exactly in harmony. Things aren't going the way they want. Look at the body language of the players as well. They're up for it when it's going well, and the minute things go wrong, that's the sign of a team that's struggling. And look, Conte's on his way out.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that, and I don't think it's entirely his fault. I know we're going back to the summer. He didn't get the personnel he wanted. That's clear. And
now you're right. That is
true. And
I
think there was a view that he could do what he did last season. Like, he didn't buy any new wing backs last season. He made do with what he got. Now this season, obviously, Zappacosta came in, and obviously he had Morata come into the side. But clearly, something happened in terms of him losing Matic as well, which he didn't want to happen. It's just not being... And I know you don't want to make excuses.
Well, no, but here's the thing, though. Look, ultimately, you're right. I think there is a certain part of me that does sympathize with Conte because, like you say, he didn't... he wanted Lukaku. It seemed like he wanted Bonucci, maybe even Alexandro. It felt like those were some of his top targets, and he got none of them. So I do sympathize with that. But here's the thing. If you look at Chelsea where they are today as opposed to where they were last year today, it's a 19-point difference. That's a massive gap from last year to this year.
But we've seen members of this team down tools before under a different manager.
True.
And there was obviously there wasn't the same level of collapse because Chelsea were top at one point, or second rather, in the league.
But to think that they'd be 8 points out of a Champions League place at this stage in the season, that some of that, you're right, there's enough blame to go around, but the manager is not immune from blame.
No, he's not immune from blame. Neither are the players either. I think you cannot react to going in 1-1 at half time in that fashion. And the downing tools is a real thing. The demeanour of the players on the field it's just not good.
One other note from me on this before we move along. If you told me going into this game, no Harry Kane, no Toby Alderweireld, who, by the way, I don't know, that's a topic for another show, but he's playing 90 minutes during the week for Belgium, but can't get into Spurs' side
on his way to Liverpool.
For a huge game against Chelsea. I don't know. But how about this from Tottenham? There was all the question marks about what they would be when Kane goes down. They were referred to earlier this season as that Harry Kane team. Since that goal...
You can't let these slights go.
Those things don't stick with you at Liverpool.
You hug them to your bosom.
Oh, my God.
You cradle them to your breast.
The
it's
hypocrisy
ridiculous.
from you is nauseating.
You nurture, you suckle these slights.
So when he got hurt, it was against Bournemouth, and Spurs were down 1-0. Since that moment, Tottenham, 10 goals, given up 1 goal. They've won 3 games, and they've lost none. They are not just that Harry Kane team. And look at what Dele Alli did in this game.
Let's talk about that brilliant goal by Dele Alli, the first touch, the finish. He's supposed to be in a slump of form.
Yep.
Look at Son marauding down the wing to create that, frankly, shambolic third goal. It was the third one, right?
Yeah, I loved the Dele Alli second goal for a couple of reasons. One, do you remember he scored almost the same goal against Everton 2 seasons ago?
I do remember.
Right before halftime. It was almost the same thing. I love this one, though, for a couple of reasons. One, the criticism that he's been receiving, I thought this was a nice response. You see, he walks right up to the after he scores, it was the second or the third, walks right up to the Chelsea stands and just puts his hand to his ear.
Why not?
I mean, he just doesn't care.
No.
Which you kind of have to respect. And I love the second goal because you just got to take it. Eric Dyer was great in this game. What a ball he played, and he was great all game long. And I just, every time he did anything, I said, oh, JJ, yeah, come on, get him, Eric, get him.
That's an unhealthy reaction to another man doing something that I reckon he can't do. Hey, fine, but I don't rate him as highly as you do. Maybe he slots into a Tottenham system.
Captained England during the week.
Yeah, again, I think that position is going to be problematic for England come the summer. I'm going to stick to my guns on this one. I'm going to go down with the Dyer as Dyership.
I see that.
By the way, can we give a nod to Gary Lineker? We exercised the ghosts of Gary Lineker. February 12th, 1990. He scored the winning goal at a Stamford Bridge where there was still a greyhound track around the outside of it.
Naeem's corner, taken short. Here he is again. And Lineker! Given far too much room. 2 minutes left, and Gary Lineker surely has won it for Tottenham.
So there we go.
Watching that highlight... Like, where were they?
Stamford Bridge.
I mean, the space behind the goal just goes on for days.
There used to be a dog track there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
There used
to be parked cars.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
There used to be parked cars behind the goals at Stamford Bridge because there was so much space there you could park your car.
I love stuff like that because it reminds you that all the people that talk about the good old days, the good old days weren't always so good. Like, I love people that have these memories that are just everything was rosy. No, that stadium was hideous and atrocious. I'm sure Chelsea fans love going to games way more now than when they had to sit behind that 30 yards behind a goal.
And I was watching the Tottenham fans go nuts in the away section in that game in 1990, and I just thought, yeah, celebrate now, because when you leave the ground, there's going to be how many people ready to knock the crap out of you. That's
Absolutely.
What it was like.
Yeah. Last bit on Chelsea. See what Gianluca Vialli had to say, a friend of Antonio Conte. He said to Sky Sports...
Chelsea legend as well.
Yeah, Conte can't wait to leave Chelsea, he told Sky Sports Italia. He can't stand that they sell or buy players without consulting him. The truth is, Chelsea would like a manager who is more of a club man. I mean, the writing just seems like it's on the wall. And this job will open up, which is going to be a very interesting job to see who fills it. It does seem now, well, actually, I'm not going to go too far because this comes up later for me.
Oh.
But it seems like the PSG job is going to be filled. So you wonder if Conte's options may be somewhat limited. Does he become Italy's manager? I don't know. But you agree that he's
toast.
He's good as gone.
Forget about it. Look, they've had, 14 managers or 9 managers and 14 trophies. It's where chaos reigns and trophies come in occasionally.
Yeah. Let's see. We move on. Manchester City 3, Everton 1. The title beckons.
Yep.
Walk in the park for City. They can now lift the trophy next weekend. And if this isn't just like poetic, lifting the trophy next weekend at home against, obviously, Jose Mourinho and Manchester United.
Cue a classic Mourinho performance where he makes them wait another week.
A win would make City the fastest team to win the title in Premier League history.
All I take from this game is nightmares about David Silva and Leroy Sané ahead of Wednesday night, because that goal the opener was scary.
Yeah.
Scary, really scary. And but yeah, look, they're going to be champions. I put my house on Mourinho making sure it's not this weekend, though.
Your house?
Oh,
I almost want to bet you.
I've
seen your apartment. It's beautiful. I almost want to do this.
He's the complete master at party pooping.
You are so empty threat guy.
What? I think he'll. I mean,
you want to do an actual bet, like a real human being one, other than your apartment? Which, by the way, I'd be very curious what your girlfriend. Oh, by the way, Darcy, we have to move because Jose Mourinho beat City this weekend.
You just listen to me for a second. He's going to party poop. It'll be a draw.
Okay. A good old 0-0.
Yep.
I don't know. City doesn't score 0 goals. Come on. How dare you?
He's the manager that is the ultimate joy killer.
Liverpool deal a blow to Crystal Palace's hopes of staying up. Mo Salah, of course, playing the role of hero once again. He's I said a few weeks ago he's my player of the season. I know it's hard to not give it to somebody on Manchester City, but you feel like almost De Bruyne and David Silva would split votes.
He's mine.
Salah is just every week.
I have to give props to Liverpool in general, because that was as bad a 45 as they'd put in all season, and the resiliency they'd showed to come back was really, really great. And also Robertson's ball, when that ball comes across for the Salah goal, did you not think, Andrew, he was winding up to smash it? And
I was thinking, how is no defender able... I mean, he hit it well, but not with such pace that I didn't think nobody was going to get to it. It was like a seeing eye single.
Played it perfectly into the path of Salah, who had a lot to do even then and finished consummately. It was really, really nice to go there and to win. And especially to have something positive, because all eyes are on Wednesday night. I can't think of anything else.
It's time for a referee talk.
Yeah,
JJ and Andrew.
And we need to admonish ourselves on this.
Okay, well, I got 2 for you.
Go ahead first.
Both from this game. Any problem with Crystal Palace being awarded a penalty when Zaha was taken down by the Liverpool keeper?
No problem. And the yellow was the correct decision as well. We got something wrong, or rather we forgot from last week that the rule changed at the start of the 2016-17 season about it's not the treble penalty now. If he stops a goal scoring chance accidentally, he's not getting a red and then it's a penalty, the goalkeeper, not like that, unless it's malicious.
Who was it? Do you have there who was on Twitter that corrected me? And you?
A couple of people corrected us, but honestly, guys, that rule came in, we mentioned it on the pod, and then I duly forgot about it until this weekend when it came up again. And the argument was that he should have been sent off because he was malicious. He didn't make an attempt on the ball. That's the shade of grey to that rule. But he definitely did. His momentum took him into Zaha. Yeah. Definitely a penalty.
Yeah, I would agree. Even though part of me doesn't love the penalty being awarded when the shot is gotten and it's like clearly going nowhere near the net, and the contact happens so far after the shot was taken. It feels like
he's impeded the player, it's got to be.
And then there was Sadio Mane, who he's at the center of just all kinds of things always. He's just like one of those guys. What do you think? The handball outside.
Well, let's deal with the dive first. The dive was a dive.
Totally fine with the dive.
Total dive.
Yeah.
He felt contact and waited way too long.
Yes.
Way too long.
Yes. So he's on a yellow now. When he decides that he has been fouled, he decides. No one else made this decision. He did.
He grabs the ball.
And he picks up the ball.
It's another yellow. He should have been sent off, and Jurgen Klopp made the right decision in taking him off.
Bingo bongo.
Yep.
I heard Steve Nicol on ESPN FC going on and on the ref. Common
that
sense.
He got it right. Yeah,
because he applied common sense.
No.
I mean, it's just so blatant to me. I can't believe it's even a conversation.
He should have walked. He should have absolutely walked. And the other thing as well, just on the penalty, people were saying, Liverpool fans, but he definitely made contact. He did make contact, but
it wasn't enough to bring him down.
No, it wasn't.
Right.
And then he just decided, I'll throw myself to the ground. In terms of acting, it's like from A Few Good Men. If Tom Cruise goes, I want answers, you want the truth, and I want the truth, and then Jack Nicholson goes, All right, you can't handle the truth. Like, the pause ruins it, right?
Yeah. It's like when somebody insults you in some way and you're driving home that night and you're like, oh, that's what I should have said.
Right, you
like,
can't.
Delayed reaction.
The gap is a
Doesn't
disaster.
Work.
Doesn't work.
It ruins it. So we agree. I thought this was going to be a whole long discussion and debate.
No.
Moving on then. If there was ever a team that needed a win, JJ, it was West Ham, and they get it in convincing
you
style.
Irons!
3-0, and it could have been worse.
Well, Dave Walker of the West Ham Way, who was excellent after the anarchy at the last home game, said it was must win. And Arnautovic put in a huge performance to smite his former manager, Mark Hughes. I mean, he just screamed at Hughes after the first goal. Took his second goal extremely well. It's amazing how motivating hate can be. It's a hatred can really motivate you in sports. Funny thing was the stewards that were ready with football boots.
By the way, whoever's idea that was, great idea. And how every club doesn't employ the same tactic. So you want your stewards to look like buffoons.
Slip and fall.
When like a 300-pound guy is able to outmaneuver them on a football field. Like, they should all be wearing cleats. I thought it was a great idea.
Yep. So, look, huge win. It gives them a little bit of cushion ahead of what looks to be... I mean, that bottom three now kind of looks like it could be solidified.
Well, I'm not ready to say that, but Southampton are now in some trouble, and it's
the way they're playing, not the position they're in.
Correct.
Almost.
How would you feel if Saints are to go down? I feel really conflicted about this. It would feel really cruel to me in that they've kind of been a banner club for smart recruitment.
Yeah, but the smart recruitment appears to have ended, though.
I know,
That's
but it just feels bad that, like, okay, the very first year where they go through some sort of recruitment hiccup and they're going. That's it. You're going down. It just feels a very cruel blow.
Yeah, they brought in the striker from Monaco to try and solve that goal scoring problem, which has been really a huge issue for them for probably 15 months now. Shane Long is still at the club. We know what Shane Long does. He works hard. Andrew, he's one goal in like the last 13 years. It's not enough. Manolo Gabbiadini has fallen off the planet. Yeah. The middle of the park is good, but not great. Dusan Tadic,
you're right.
Fine, but like, again, not coming up with the goals needed.
But that's the thing, though. It feels like having a team full of mediocrity should kind of be enough to at least stay up. And it just feels like it's they're not done yet. There's certainly still hope for Southampton, but they're in a bad way, and it just, I don't know. It can't be shocking when every year you're getting rid of your best players.
No, that's right.
They've been able to replenish, but you're right. At some point, the well was going to dry up. And I'm just surprised that the second it dried up, everyone, that's it. It's over.
The recruitment, like we talked about, where they've replaced players in the past, just hasn't worked.
Yeah. Last but not least, from the Prem, Alan Pardew has left West Brom, apparently by mutual decision.
Yeah, I think
so. The statement read.
I guess the preparation for the championship begins now.
Yep.
Boing Boing Baggies are. We thought that was the end of it, but now they are indeed the Boing Boing Baggies once more. Mick McCarthy is out of a job at Ipswich, which is interesting for West Brom. McCarthy's a brilliant manager, and he's been doing a great job at Ipswich on no resources. If he's feeling fresh enough, he's a perfect manager to take them in the championship and put them back in the playoffs at least. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, but they're gone.
Yeah, they certainly are. 20 points from 32 matches this season. 1 win in 18 league games with Pards. 8 of a possible 54 points.
Not to forget that just the away trip and everything that went wrong there in terms of people being arrested and stealing.
It's been a forgettable
things.
season.
Oh, terrible.
He's the 10th permanent manager to leave his team this season. Half the league has turned over their manager at some point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looking for that bounce.
Yep. Oh, we continue now to the main event. You heard it at the start of the show, and we get back to it now.
A football game in Los Angeles is the main event of the weekend.
But it was.
It was.
It so was.
It captured the imagination.
Well, you can make fun, because I know that's your way.
Oh, whoa. No, I'm on board. I thoroughly enjoyed this game. Don't you dare try and make me out to be the anti-MLS heel in this.
See, one of the things that I love in sports is when the action on the field meets the hype off of it. You know, like I always talked about Dempsey's goal at the start of the 2014 World Cup. You wait, and then, oh my God, this is actually amazing. We just scored 30 seconds.
There was no delayed gratitude.
Right, like this, you know, there was the hype of just LAFC versus LA Galaxy, like a fun new rivalry kind of, you know, growing right before our eyes. There's the hype of Zlatan coming over here. So for those two things to kind of meet, even without Zlatan, it might have been the game of the year had it just played out. Let's say 2 other guys scored those last 2 goals. It would have probably been the best game in MLS this season. But the fact that he comes in off the bench, scores the first one, scores the second one in stoppage time, it was really an unbelievable watch.
And to the cynics like me who, question Zlatan signing, and there was plenty of hardcore MLS people who were curious about how this would go. Mm-hmm. It was nice that for the torrent of bollocks that was spoken over the last few days, like him rehashing all that stuff about him being a lion, conquering England. He never did any of that. Okay, finishing 6th and winning the League Cup is not conquering anything. He was very good. Okay, he didn't conquer anything. So it was really gratifying and good that he comes on and scores an absolute worldie. It was important that happened because it makes all the nonsense off the field, the welcome to LA cake that the Galaxy made him, the terrible press conference in which Ziggy Smith looked like old Gil from The Simpsons. He said, thank you to Zlatan for selecting us. Oh, Ziggy, you are a grand old man of US soccer. You don't need to be thanking players. They should want to come and play for you, for selecting us.
Yeah, there's something like groveling about it.
Groveling. Yeah. I hated every moment of it. But that one goal made it all worthwhile.
And then even the second one, too, for them to actually go on and win the game from 3-0 down. It was just, the whole thing was just awesome. Now, a couple things. You say, now, is it all worthwhile? I was the one defending this somewhat last week. Your skepticism was honest, and it was not without merit. I mean, it makes sense to be skeptical. Whereas I kind of thought, well, look, he did this for Manchester United just 1 year ago. Now, everything we've heard about his knee is that he's in good shape. So I believe that this can work. Having said that, for everybody who's kind of throwing him a parade as the greatest signing in MLS history, slow down. Yeah. I mean, this is one game in which he played for 20 minutes, and then
everything fell for him as well.
Well,
like
how many? It was his own doing, though. The courage to take that shot.
The acknowledgement that you are so capable of executing that volley. It sat up perfectly for him. I knew when it sat up, I was like, he's going to hit that. I knew he was going to hit it. But the point being is, it still is true what we said last week. There's going to be a day. I mean, how about this? An LA Galaxy fan who I respect hugely, who does her own podcast, tweeted out, I don't want Zlatan playing in 3 fixtures on turf. Right, so there's the nervousness about the knee, which is not being tested. There's also the fact that what we said last week, imagine in a game that's not going your way and the ball doesn't land the way he wants it. The hands will go in the air. He's not mobile enough to be one of those guys like Keane, who at 35 when he was in the league could still run the channels. There's a lot of time, a lot of football to be played.
It's true. However, having said all that, isn't it funny that in 3 minutes on the field, he probably brought more joy and excitement to LA than Steven Gerrard's entire tenure there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, within seconds. So look, we always say you don't know how these veteran signings are going to go. And after one game, it's pointing in a certain direction. But you still don't always know.
And it's still win-win. You've got this amazing moment. You've got all the social media that goes around it, all the eyes on the league. You have paid nothing for him if you're LA Galaxy, because that was TAM money, targeted allocated money.
Which is just mind-boggling.
So basically he's a league signing. He ain't costing the Galaxy nout. This is just perfect.
Here he was after the game talking about his debut.
Everywhere I'm going is like happiness, and everybody's like, welcome, and thank you, and enjoy, and I just try to give back as much as possible, even if I have to focus on the game, obviously. And once I was on the bench, I could feel the support, but not only for me, for the whole team. And just like I said now, before I came in, we want Zlatan, and I gave them Zlatan. So it's easier to play when you have fans pushing you, supporting you, and giving you that little extra you need. And when it goes good, you see the happiness in your teammates, and you just want to keep going. So, but I was happy when the game was finished, because I don't know if I could play more.
Which is honest, because the first run he made into the channel to collect the ball was, you were like, oh, he's creaking. He's absolutely creaking. Yeah, which you expect, because he was never an out-and-out sprinter or runner or anything like that. I would also say, if he hasn't bought dinner for Chris Pontius and Sebastian Lletget than he should do right now. He owes them a pint or two. Because
for them having brought LA back into the game?
They teed it up perfectly for him. Perfectly.
To play the role of hero.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, let's talk to another hero right now, an American hero. One of our favorite people to have on this program, been on with us several times before, and we thought if you're going to talk to anybody in a moment like this, why not the one, the only Alexi Lalas back on the show now. Alexi, what's up, man? How are you?
Greetings, gentlemen, from sunny Los Angeles here. A hell of a weekend. Hell of a weekend, on and off the field.
And we all know who has brought the sunshine to this city.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's Zlatan.
That's too saccharine.
Alexi, I'm curious. I saw Grant Wall. I think you may have even retweeted it, but Grant Wall referred to Zlatan's debut as the most indelible moment in MLS history. Do you agree?
I can certainly make that argument. I'm trying to think back, and we were talking today over on Fox about different moments and this whole weekend, and trying to put it in context. And I'm an old guy. I've been around. I've seen a lot, especially when it comes to MLS. I was there at the first game. I was there at the first MLS Cup. Obviously, I lived through the Beckham type of craziness. And being on the field and seeing what happened the other day at the StubHub Center, I tend to agree with him because it was on, Big Fox, Homer Simpson Fox. It was Zlatan being so Zlatan in the way that we waited for that moment. He steps on the field. Now Beckham, there's only one Beckham, and the general impact and the long-lasting impact from David Beckham, I still think is insurmountable. At least we haven't seen anybody that's even come close, and I don't think Zlatan gets there. But the difference is Zlatan is a goal scorer, and goals are the most important and the most valuable thing in our sport, and that's why the ones that score it are so valuable. And for him to come on in that way and to say to everyone, I know you think about these things, I know you dream, and you talk about this possibility, but I make them into a reality. That's what legends do, and that's what stars do. And this guy is a star in the way that he came on, the way that he changed that game, and the way that we will remember that game from its historic perspective. Because keep in mind, this was also the first El Tráfico, Los Angeles Galaxy versus LAFC. There will be many, many more, but the first one, you never forget your first. And in the way that Zlatan affected this, there's nobody that's ever going to forget if they were watching that game.
Now, you've brought a question that I wasn't going to ask to mind. If you had your time again and you were involved in bringing Beckham to Los Angeles, if you had your time again, would you have broke the bank and tried to get, like you said, a goal scorer, a scorer of great goals instead of Beckham? No, I think it was a educated, and I think it is proven to be a smart decision on our part to identify Beckham, to cultivate that relationship with AEG and with Tim Leiweke and all the folks there, with David's camps first, and then just constantly being there for when that moment and being able to act quickly. And look, the Galaxy paid a whole lot more money than they're playing for right.
Zlatan. So from a business perspective, in terms of what your outlay is, this is a apples and oranges type of thing. But the impact of David Beckham, and yes, Zlatan transcends the sport, but not in the way that David Beckham did. Now, I recognize that the more interesting question would be, if I had a prime David Beckham and a prime Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which one would I have signed? Now, that gets into a real interesting question, and that would be difficult. I still think I would fall on the David Beckham because there's a reason why when people around the world think of the Los Angeles Galaxy, and that is specifically because David Beckham turned that hope and that dream of having a super club into reality because of his reach all over the world.
Now, one thing I'm curious about, and it kind of speaks a little bit to the Beckham-Zlatan comparison, a lot of big names have come through MLS, but the thing about Zlatan that I think is so intriguing to me in terms of what he could do for this league, his love of a good quote, a good soundbite, his love of the limelight. Has MLS had a personality quite like this, who's such a great combination of talent on the field mixed with this love of being the center of attention?
I'm so glad you hit on that, because that's really what separates, say, a David Beckham or a Thierry Henry or any of the other big designated players or just big players that have come over here. It's not just what he says, but his understanding, this is a smart guy. He understands the role that he plays. He understands the personality that he is, the character that he plays. It doesn't mean it's not authentic, but he also understands what, especially us in the media, what we want. He's a quote machine, but it's not just what he says, it's the way in which he says it. And he's very, very smart. He understands his brand. He understands his reach. But most importantly, what he understands is that with everything that he says that's provocative or entertaining or incendiary or just interesting, he backs it up on the field. Everywhere he has gone, he has scored goals. Everywhere he has gone, his teams have won. And that's what makes it such a powerful punch. We've had plenty of characters, but being able to back it up on the field with that play, that's the sweet spot that anybody wants to get to. I'm not sure we've had anybody in terms of personality that's bigger. As a matter of fact, I will tell you right now, there has never been a bigger personality in the league when it comes to Zlatan.
Now, we are devoted to balance on this podcast, and we often read listeners' emails and their tweets and everything, so I have to be the negative Nelly on this one here. But this is Michael from Texas, Alexi, and I thought I'd put it to you because there's no point me and Andrew answering this one. Is it just me, or does it reflect very poorly on the quality of MLS as a league when a 37-year-old geriatric, not sure how that works, coming off an ACL tear, who has only been with the team for 1 day, 2 counting game day, can score 2 goals within 20 minutes? I don't take away anything from Zlatan. He was an incredible player, but I just feel like it only reinforces the negative image of the league as a whole. The senator from California, please rebut this.
Okay, so I've heard this. As a matter of fact, we were recording our podcast, which you can download, the State of the Union podcast over at Fox today, and we discussed this very subject. So I'll give you a little teaser, if you will.
Okay.
So, and by the way, just as a small correction, he's only 36. Now, let's not make him any older than he actually is. He's not 37. He's 36. He'll turn 37 in October. So this type of reaction is normal. It is expected to have people say that this actually only reinforces this notion that MLS is a retirement league and that this is actually a bad thing. I get that. I understand where it comes from. And where it comes from really is, especially when it's the American soccer population that's doing, is this long-standing insecurity and inferiority complex that we have. And look, you got to see somebody about that because it is going to drag you down. This is a good moment. This is a good moment for the Galaxy. This is a good moment for Major League Soccer. This is a good moment for soccer. We love to attach baggage to these moments or say that this is an indictment on the league or that this is a representative of what the league has come to. Because for every Zlatan in this league, we can name, especially in 2018, 6 different players that are young, up-and-coming, designated players that teams have spent much more money on to bring into this league. So this is if it was a retirement league, it certainly isn't in 2018. And that's a lazy interpretation and analysis of what MLS is in 2018. Just enjoy this, my man. Just watch it and enjoy it for what it is. Because the reality is that both of those goals had nothing to do with the competition. Both of those goals he could have scored in any league against any team in the world. And by the way, this is something that Zlatan has been doing for the better part of 20 years all over the world. So that's a long way of saying, no, this is a good thing. This is not a problem to have him come off the bench after, admittedly, a very serious knee injury and come in and score 2 goals. That is not an indictment on the league to have that happen. There's going to be plenty of goals by young players, plenty of goals by players that were paid a whole lot more than Zlatan. This is just a wonderful moment. Just sit back, just relax and bathe in this wonderful moment and don't try to attribute too much positive or negative to it.
Yeah, I would agree. If you're a neutral fan and you're having a hard time enjoying that, then maybe the sport just isn't for you. I mean, that's surely an awesome moment.
And I would say that to the same people who spent most of the time relitigating the goal, whether it was offside or not, the winner. I'm sorry, I was transfixed by the volley that was sliced from 40 yards into the net. I couldn't get over that, never mind anything else.
See, I was demanding VAR. I said, where is VAR? We need VAR. Alexi, there's one other element, though, of this that I'm curious for your thoughts on with this general sense of skepticism around the move. And I think some of that is based on MLS fans who like the direction that the league is headed, where we're seeing a movement away from the Lampards, the Gerrards, moves like that, and headed more towards the Nico Laderos and players like that, a younger South American, Central American who maybe doesn't have the name value of some of these players from Europe. So with that in mind, I mean, Zlatan is clearly the former. He's clearly that European aging superstar. Why is this move okay, whereas some of those other ones maybe weren't so okay?
Well, first off, Zlatan Ibrahimovic is an outlier. There is not a league that you can find, even the best league, take the best league in the world, whatever you feel that is, there is not a league in the world that you won't have multiple teams that would take Zlatan in 2018. And by the way, they would jump at the chance to take him at $1.5 million a year for the next 2 years, even given that injury. But that is, but there's only maybe 3 other players in the world that are like that. I mean, you're talking about one of the top 3. So let's say Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and then probably Neymar at this point is in this conversation right now. So one of the top 4 in the world when we're talking about name recognition, ability, Q rating, whatever you want to talk about that. So this was an outlier in terms of what is going on. This was something also that the Galaxy almost had to do because, keep in mind, as I said, this was the first El Tráfico. This other team, this nouveau riche, newcomer, new kid on the block, has come into this market and was taking a lot of energy and a lot of bandwidth out of the Los Angeles market, and boom, you had to do something big. And immediately you took it back and you said, you know what, we've been here, if you're the Galaxy, we've been here 22-plus years, not so fast. Boom, with the Zlatan, and then he performs on the field, and you're right back to who's the leader, who's the big dog in Los Angeles right now? Well, it's the Los Angeles Galaxy until AFC opens up that new stadium and does a whole lot better and some bigger and better things going on when it comes to the field. And by the way, LAFC is going to be fine. That is a good quality team that Bob Bradley has. They're going to be competitive game in and game out. And whether it's Vela scoring goals, Urania, who I think is so underrated, and even a young guy like Kay in the midfield, I was really, really impressed despite the final result after that game.
I have one more on Zlatan, Alexi, and it's a brass tacks question. So the rest of the league sees that this guy can at least offer a cameo, and quite a thrilling cameo. You're a centre-back. How would you advise the rest of the centre-backs in the league to mark him? What would you do?
So when I was playing back in the 1900s, guys, way back in the previous century, I had no problem marking the likes of guys like Zlatan. So for me, give me Vialli or Ravanelli or Batistuta, these types of players. That's not a problem. For me, the problem was marking guys like Romario and Zola, these young, these short, really, really quick, really low center of gravity and the ability to shift their weight. Those are the ones that gave me problems. So if you have a guy that just loves the responsibility of going and just banging up against a big, tall center back, that's what you got to do. But you also have to be very careful because while he is a big man, he has really soft feet. And he loves, especially let's say the last 5-6 years, to really kind of drop into those pockets. And that's where center backs don't like to go because it makes you make center backs make a decision. And so you're going to have to decide if and when he does drop back into those pockets, are you going to go with him and just, once again, have that one-on-one battle that happens and rages all game, and you'll win some and you'll lose some, but are you going to pass it on? And that's where I think it's going to be really critical as to how they decide to defend him. Does somebody from the midfield pick him up, or do you have one guy who's going to follow him everywhere he goes, including if he goes to the bathroom?
Alexi Lalas joining us here on Caught Offside. Alexi, I want to switch off from Zlatan for 1 sec. And the CONCACAF Champions League, which actually seems like it's starting to capture the imagination of the American soccer fan, and I guess Canadian soccer fan, a little bit. Toronto FC, the Red Bulls, how much will their success in this competition inform the way in which you perceive the place MLS is in right now?
Well, we were just talking about how one result and one player can change the narrative, and we use it as a referendum on the league. Well, this is a holy grail to a certain extent, winning the CONCACAF Champions League in its current form. We know that both the Galaxy and DC United back in its previous form won, but in its current form right now, this is something that I know the ownership of MLS wants, and I know the fan base wants, because if you're going to be the best, then at least you have to be the best in your region. If you're going to be one of the best leagues in the world, you got to be the best in your region. And so until that is done, and you take it off the table, because no matter what, it constantly gets thrown back in the face. And even if and when, and it's going to happen, an MLS team is going to win it, it's not going to change everything overnight. But you know what? It's nice to have. It's a nice thing to have. Now you look at these two teams. It would not surprise me in the least if there were both Mexican teams in the final and a Clásico in itself. However, you look at, and they've gone about it very differently with the Jesse Marsch Red Bulls, which isn't necessarily spending a lot of money, but they know exactly who they are and exactly who they aren't, and certainly they love their younger players, and they love to foster their younger players and bring them up, and that has been successful, and they breezed through their last matchup. And then Toronto FC, obviously the MLS defending champions, but both of them went through home and aways with Mexican teams, which for many, many years has been the major problem. And they came out. Now, it wasn't easy. It certainly wasn't easy for Toronto FC, but I'm really, really looking forward to this. My heart tells me that there's going to be two MLS teams in the final, and we'll have a whole MLS celebration regardless of who wins. But my head tells me that your safe money is probably putting it on the Mexican teams going through the final. So that means that if you just split the baby down the middle, then one Mexican team, one MLS team, and off we go to the races, which would be fine by me.
Final one for me, Alexi. Rob Stone at the weekend. Rob's a total pro, and like the one thing I really like about him is he's excited to be there. He realizes his job is absolute money, and he loves it, and his enthusiasm flows through the screen. I've never seen him so giddy as around Zlatan or watching Zlatan in all my watching of Rob Stone days. And even remember when it was almost like you had to calm him down because he wanted to talk about your Emmy. Congratulations, your Emmy nomination. But you nearly had to tell him, stop, I want to watch the highlights. How do you deal with Rob Stone in those scenarios?
He's a dear friend and just an incredible professional, as you mentioned. He's taught me so much. And as you guys know, when you're working with two people, you take on different roles. And certainly ours is a much more traditional a host and an analyst type of situation, although Rob knows a whole lot more than even I know when it comes to soccer, although it doesn't come across. But he is the ultimate setup man, and he puts me and everybody that he works with, whether it's soccer or not, in great positions to succeed. Now, I will say this. I was prepared the other day to basically take over the hosting duties because there was a real good chance, given his, and I got to say it, his absolute love for Zlatan, that he was not going to be able to form complete sentences, and we were going to have to kind of mop up drool from the sides of his face. And he was so excited, so giddy. But I will tell you this: he was also very, very professional in that he pulled off this veteran move where he had a bottle of Zlatan cologne, and he brought it with him to the set. And as soon as Zlatan sat down between us for his first nationally broadcast interview in the United States, he started spraying this around, and it broke the ice. It made Zlatan so calm, and it was a veteran move from Rob Stone, and he was able to complete the interview. But I'll tell you what, I think there are people out there that are very excited about the fact that Ibra is in Major League Soccer. There is nobody out there that is more excited than Rob Stone. I mean, he was jumping around and screaming and yelling, not because he wants the Galaxy to win or anything like that. He just wants Zlatan to win. Yeah. And it was wonderful to see him, this legend when it comes to the game in terms of broadcasting, turn into this child, this wonder. And we talk. This is full circle. I said, don't attach too much to this. Just enjoy it for what it was, which was a wonderful moment. And there is no better example of that than Rob Stone jumping up and down like a little kid, just bathing in that moment, and evidently bathing in some cologne that was still around there. But it was a wonderful sight to see, and I love him. I love him like a brother.
Last one from me. We'll go from the levity of that to me playing the role of Debbie Downer here. Oh. Yeah, and bringing it back to USA Soccer.
Oh, what are you doing?
Well, because I have to. Because we don't speak with him all the time. And Alexi, JJ and I were just talking last week. We're coming up on 6 months since that famous night in Trinidad.
You are incredible.
But I just want to hear his take. JJ and I were talking about it last week. In this 6 months, I know it's not a huge sample size. Do you feel any better, worse, the same about where USA Soccer is at right now?
I feel cautiously optimistic that this has. I guess it's the silver lining type of theory in that it will have pushed us to be better. Even this new group of younger players, listening to them in this last camp, not the guys that I know and that have been around. I'm talking about new guys. There's this sense that it is their responsibility to rectify this wrong. And there is a recognition that there is opportunity in that. And I love that. I love that when they speak about, you know what, this is our team now, this is under our watch now, and we're not going to let that failure happen ever again, and certainly not under our watch. I love that. I don't know why I should care. I do care because I'm just a junkie about it, but I don't know why we should care about these games when the GM hasn't been named and the coach hasn't been named. And so all of these players could not be involved going forward, depending on who comes in with their vision. You have Dave Sarakin, who I love, but the reality is that he's not going to be the coach, nor should he be the coach. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but a part of me says, you know what? You got to clean house. And that means anybody that was involved, anybody that is tainted with this incredible failure, no. Thank you for your service. You've been wonderful. In previous times, it's been incredibly successful, but we're moving on. And I want this new core, both in terms of the leadership, GM, coach, but also the players that are brought in, to not be burdened. And I'm not saying that Christian Pulisic isn't part of it. He is. I mean, he is one of the few that I'm okay with continuing on. But I'll tell you what, I want a brand new face and a brand new vision and philosophy going forward that says we failed and we're not going to let that happen again, and we're going to get better for that failure. That's how I feel right now. But it's still also, it's like you said, it's been 6 months and nothing has really changed or happened. And maybe not through any fault of anybody's, because they're waiting until the summer when maybe some talent comes available. But I kind of want to get this show on the road at some point.
Yep. The night is always darkest before the dawn.
Oh,
quote, Batman.
There you go.
Yep. So there you go, man. Hey, as always, we love catching up. Great stuff. Hopefully we'll do it again a little bit later on in the season. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Our thanks to Alexi Lalas, the Zlatan of Fox, the Zlatan of American soccer.
Indeed, and it was interesting for him to say how he would be okay with a big man like Zlatan, but hated Romario. We actually have videotape of him hating Romario and Bebeto in a game. I didn't want to remind him there, but fair play to him for admitting it.
We've spoken a lot about Zlatan, and for the right reasons, I would say. He kind of stole the show this weekend. However, this was still an amazing game where LAFC, this upstart club, go into Carson, 3-0 lead, and then the Galaxy fight back. I mean, this was an amazing game in its own right. Now, I asked the question, and you've got the answer here. How did this turn the way that it did for LAFC?
I've come up with 5 reasons for it.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so reason number 1, first they committed in the second half, the Galaxy first half sin of a turnover near their own box on the Leggett goal. Yeah. You can't give the ball away in those key positions, just like Boateng did in the first half.
Carrasco pounced right on it.
Can't
Perfect
do
pass
it.
to Leggett.
Yep. And that lets them back in and gives them hope early on. 2, João Moutinho, who is young and inexperienced, gets the wrong side of Chris Pontius on the header, and Boateng had way too much time, several times on the left-hand side, to deliver the cross. So that's something that Beitashour's got to look at himself. 3, the free kick for the Zlatan volley, which was taken by the goalkeeper. He's got to get back into position quicker. That ball was floated down the field, the header was won, and he's still in a bizarre position, backtracking. I think he's got to be better on his feet. Bingham has. 4, they were gassed. They ran out of steam in a bad way. And 5, defending, goalkeeping on the header for the winner was poor. Simon was poor, and Zlatan was brave. And that's my breakdown.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm glad Alexi said what he did to remind people, like, LAFC, this is a bad loss, and they're going to feel this. But I still feel good about them.
I tell you, Arena was fantastic. I thought Vea was brilliant.
Can you say now what you said to me before the show about the Carlos Vela, his first goal?
Oh my God, it's just such a shame that an absolute worldie bent into the top corner like that you're not going to talk about it ever again. That's the end of it, which is a shame. But no, look, I actually feel better about LAFC than I do about the Galaxy. How about that? But that's for another day.
Interesting. It is for another day. What to watch for? The Champions League. Oh, the quarterfinals, the first legs.
Oh.
Tuesday, 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time, Juventus, Real Madrid. For me, I'll say this. I think all eyes are going to be on Zidane's team sheet. I'm really curious with what Gareth Bale just did at the weekend. A couple goals, looked great. What does Zidane do? It's
well, traditionally I guess he'll stick with them now in the form that he's in.
I was looking at
I would
something.
think.
I saw this about Bale. I thought this was really interesting. Bale, he is a lightning. It seems like he's become a lightning rod among Real Madrid fans. Often criticized, place in the team always seems to be in question. But here's the thing: the guy is a natural playmaker. He contributes directly to goals. Look at this comparison. Bale this season played in 30 games, 14 goals, 7 assists in 30 games. Lucas this season, 42 games, 8 goals, 13 assists. Isco, 40 games this season, 7 goals, 7 assists. Asensio this season, 41 games, 10 goals, 4 assists. Bale, far fewer games than any of these guys, but greater production in terms of direct contribution to goals.
Yeah, but I mean, you read through those figures. All those guys are really, really giving something to the team.
They're all good. Absolutely, you're right. But, I mean, Bale's numbers clearly, in 10-plus fewer games than those guys, his numbers are better.
I believe Bale will start. Because if we've seen anything from Zidane, he does like to bring those other players on as impact players. Now, one of those other 3 is going to start, and I don't know how it's going to work.
Does Isco's form from Spain have any carryover to what he does now for Real Madrid? Will Zidane look at that and think, okay, I got to go with this guy, or is it like totally separate?
I don't think so. I think Asensio's form in the Champions League for Real Madrid gives him a real chance of starting. I don't think the same can be said for Isco. I don't know why that is, especially after what Isco said. He had that little side swipe. He's frustrated. I get it.
Yeah.
But
by the way, some good news for Juve. Juan Cuadrado returned to Juventus this weekend after an extended absence. Scored in the game, a 3-1 win over AC Milan. A huge win for Juve. They move now 4 points clear of Napoli.
Because Napoli did what Napoli always do.
I know. A 1-1 draw, was it?
Sassuolo, for God's sake.
I know. Now, a lot of people are jumping and saying it's over, Juve. It's not, because they do still play each other. Now, it's a 4-point gap, so even if Napoli win, they'll still have to make up a point elsewhere. But there's enough time left where it's possible.
They need Juve to have another bad day at the office and then beat them when they meet them in the head-to-head.
Exactly.
But this had the makings of a real title race, and I just feel it's slipping away.
A little bit. It certainly is. Also, Chiellini, he played this past weekend against AC Milan after a muscular injury had kept him out. So we'll see. If those guys are playing at the weekend with a Champions League game coming up, you got to think that they'll be healthy and good to go in some form. Tuesday also, 2:45, Sevilla and Bayern. Bayern just coming off an absolute thrashing. I will have more on that later in the show.
I had to turn it off at halftime. I'm not going to step all over you. It was sad.
Yeah. Wednesday, 2:45, the games you got, Barcelona and AS Roma. The question here, injury-related, still awaiting word of Sergio Busquets' availability. He's been out since breaking his toe on that second leg against Chelsea. Some people think he could be ready to return. Apparently, the timetable was such that the exact date in which they said he could be good to go is this very date.
Crazy.
So we'll see if that's just a coincidence or if they knew what they were doing when they said that. Also, Nainggolan subbed off after 17 minutes for Roma over the weekend, suffering some sort of muscle injury as well.
Yeah, all that time going around kicking people has... that's not fair. He's a good player. I take that back, because I'll get Roma fans jumping all over me.
Good, they should. I hope they do. And then Wednesday, 2:45, Liverpool and Manchester City. Been a weird year for these two against one another.
Yeah.
There was the 5-0 at the Etihad, and then the 4-3 at Anfield for Liverpool. Now, one of the things I guess you would look at, David Silva not playing in that second meeting, that could have had some sort of impact. Ultimately,
but in the first meeting, then there was the sending off, which had a huge impact on the way that game was going. We were creating chances, and then all of a sudden it went.
Yeah, so, I suppose. City were up, though, when that sending off happened.
I know, but Liverpool were very much in the game.
Okay.
And they then exited the game rather quickly, rather tamely.
Here's one for you about this game. This was very interesting to me. Raheem Sterling. He's in great form. He's having a tremendous season. But this was a question posed at the Telegraph. Do you start Raheem Sterling? And the basis was this. On form, of course you do, but there's more to it than that. They say that the way he riles up the cop every time he touches the ball, the way it just brings the fans back into the game, is it worth it?
Well, I'm sure he riled up Goodison Park at the weekend, being an ex-Liverpool player, and I'm sure there was no love for him then. Look at the way he played. Of course it's worth it.
I would think so too.
I don't believe in that.
I would agree.
John,
I mean, he's
I told you before.
Player.
I told you before about John Giles, the ex-Leeds United great. His views on the crowd. If you asked him that question, he would, the look of disdain he would have.
Now, the one thing, I agree.
He believes in atmospheres, but he doesn't believe in that kind
You're right.
of thing.
It seems like an insane reason to not play one of your best players. But remember, he was subbed off early last time they played at Anfield. He was poor in that game. It seemed like maybe the crowd was getting to him. Now, hopefully if that is in fact what happened, hopefully it was a learning experience, because I think he's great and he's got to play. But we'll see what Pep thinks. Are you nervous? Are you excited?
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I think that game is going to be. It's just I can't predict how it's going to go, but I think it's going to be. No one's going to sit back. It's going to be action packed. Dare I say it? It could be a classic over 2 legs.
Wow.
I really feel that way. And I can tell you right now in the podcast, I'm searching for someone who we can get live reaction to, like we did after Dortmund in the Champions League in 2016.
Searching.
So we're going to work on something like that. Maybe we can get James Pearce from the Echo back on. I don't want to make any promises.
No, never.
But it's pretty cool.
Under promise, over deliver. Words to live by.
That is pretty much your life.
CONCACAF Champions League. JJ is preparing to take back all the nasty things he said about this in that horrible song.
You're such an absolute clown.
Tuesday, 8 p.m.
The song was a piece of comedy, satire.
Well, I found it offensive, and I look forward to the retraction when you write a new song, a more glorious song.
This is the best competition.
Toronto and Club America, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Up in Canada. The first leg is in Toronto. Toronto beat Real Salt Lake over the weekend. Maybe a little bit of a lift coming in. One thing I'm curious about that maybe you could help me here. Giovinco missed a penalty versus Real Salt Lake. He's 1 for 4 over the previous 2 seasons. One of his last 4. We all know how big penalties can be in these games. Is it time? Greg Vanney says he was asked about it, and he says, I take a very hands-off approach. Is it time that because you've got Josie can take penalties. We all know that. I mean, does Vanney have to step in? Are the stakes too high now where he can't allow Giovinco, if it comes to it, to play his way out of this penalty slump that he's in?
I think you stick with him. I really do. No, that's not to say you have other there's really good options that team.
I would say Josie, get in there.
I wouldn't say Josie. There's options. There's options.
All right, Bradley, I don't know, whatever you want to do.
There's guys ahead of him. Like, my point would be that you've got to trust him, Sebastian Giovinco, from 12 yards, and he'll kick his way out of it. When it matters, he'll score.
It's no time to be taking unnecessary risks.
You're thinking about Messi and penalties now.
The stakes are too high.
No, I think Altidor's a bigger risk of missing than
really?
Giovinco right now.
Interesting. And then Wednesday, 10 o'clock, Chivas and the Red Bulls in Mexico. Red Bulls lost a crazy game to Orlando City and their old friend Sasha Kljestan, 4-3. That game would have made quite a few headlines, I think, had it not been for
got completely eaten up.
But here's the thing that bears mentioning. The Red Bulls, you can clearly see now where MLS is headed with this CONCACAF Champions League competition. Do you see the lineup the Red Bulls put out for that game in Orlando? No Tyler Adams, no BWP, or BWP came on as a sub in the 75th. Kamar Lawrence came on as a sub at halftime. I mean, 3 of the best, Adams, BWP, Lawrence, none of them started. They clearly had an eye on what was going to be happening Wednesday night in Mexico. So, you know what? Good, man. Go for it.
Right, because they recognize that they can still be where they need to be in the league and put out a weakened team at this point in the season. By the way, if I was going for someone, because his name escaped me for some reason there, to take a penalty for Toronto instead of Giovinco, but not Josie. Vasquez.
Okay. So you gone back and changed your mind.
Yeah, but I'm not jumping on you with your Altidore Bradley moves beforehand. No way.
This country has been nothing but kind to you, and yet look at the way you just criticize all of our players.
Red card.
Well, you're going to love this segment then, as I come to the defense of America.
Oh, wow. What's your red card?
My red card is to 2 journalists I really respect who tweeted things that just miss the point of the weekend, the Zlatan hype, the LA Derby. Miguel Delaney, who we love.
You love him.
I love him.
Oh,
this was his tweet. 3:38 p.m., April 1st, 2018. Surely an indictment of MLS that a crocked Zlatan could do that on his debut. Come on. Followed up by another guy who does great journalistic work, writes for the same paper, Jack Pitt-Brook. Are we going to have to endure this every time he batters in a hat-trick against a keeper that wouldn't get a game in the Bostik Premier Division? Which is an attack on young Bingham. Here's my point. We know what MLS is. We're well aware that it's not the greatest defending in the world, and we're not buying in that it's the greatest league in the world. But why can't you take joy in the execution of a beautiful goal? Why does it have to be a referendum on MLS or a reason for you to give your opinion on the American game when it doesn't require it? Why can't you just say like I did? That is, I said, Zlatan talks an awful lot of BS, but what a beautiful goal. A beautiful strike.
You know,
where's the joy in the game if you just dogmatically stick to rating what happens in each league because it happens in each league?
It's a shame.
It's a snobbery.
I almost wish you brought this up sooner because I feel like we're going so late here. But MLS in a situation like this, they are completely damned if they do, damned if they don't. So if Zlatan comes on and is just ordinary, no one is saying, wow, MLS has really picked up its level of play. They've contained Zlatan. No. It's that Zlatan he's so clearly finished. The knee, he's done. Can't even get it done in MLS. So there's that. Then if he comes on and scores goals like he does, it's, oh my God, MLS is pathetic that this guy, this 36-year-old guy coming off an injury can come in and score goals. MLS can't win.
And if Joseph Martinez does that exact goal, because he's not a name anywhere else other than MLS in his home country, in Venezuela, no one talks about the goal. It doesn't get the same glims because it's Zlatan. You can't.
It's not fair.
No, but it's also joy. It's the same people who I think they are no different to the MLS fans who wouldn't stop talking about whether that header was offside or not. It was so fractional. Who cares? Yeah. Honestly, at some point you have to say, "What a great goal! What a great game."
Yep, I totally agree, and I love that red card. My red card goes to Borussia Dortmund, hammered over the weekend 6-0 by soon-to-be Bundesliga champions Bayern Munich. Let's talk about Dortmund, though, for a sec. Obviously, this was embarrassing when you're down 5-0 at the half. When that happens, you are essentially telling everybody watching that we have given up. And now their path to a Champions League spot, not quite so secure. They're third in the Bundesliga with just a 3-point lead over fifth place Bayer Leverkusen and sixth place Eintracht Frankfurt. This is a club that probably moved on from Thomas Tuchel prematurely. Now in their second manager since his departure, while Tuchel, meanwhile, kind of referenced earlier, seems to be in line to take the PSG job. There are some that say it's done.
He's much wanted around Europe.
And they're going to allow Unai Emery to just finish out the season, and then Tuchel will be the one who takes over. Dortmund are heralded as Germany's number 2 team, and yet over the last 3 seasons, they've lost by an aggregate score at the Allianz Arena of 15-2 to the German Giants. Maybe they are the number 2 team in Germany, but my God, JJ, the gap from Bayern down to that number 2 is the Grand Canyon.
Now, we've got a lot of Borussia Dortmund fans who watch way more regularly than we do in terms of every game they play, not just the big ones, and not just the Champions League or European ties. And they were saying that they'd been getting results of late that they didn't deserve, that they weren't playing that well, and that this was coming. And you can kind of see that this was a reckoning for them. But it was so bad. It was just awful. I had to turn off at half-time. I couldn't do it. If I'm going to spend my whole afternoon watching soccer, you got to sometimes just pick something and say, right, this is where I draw the line.
5-0 at the half.
Awful.
Caught Offside's man of the match.
What you got?
You know how I am about reading, Andrew.
I adore to read.
Nothing sums me up better than that. It's a sentence that doesn't even make sense. Tim Ream, Fulham FC. A great article on him. Everybody's original English America's team are sat in a good position in the championship, Andrew. They're third in the table, albeit 8 points outside the automatic promotion spots, and they play Leeds United in a massive game if the Whites are going to stand any chance of catching Cardiff in second spot. Fulham's excellent season has been in no small part to the consistency of centre-back Tim Ream. And he spoke to Alison Rudd of the London Times about his season and about being an American in the country that invented the game. Talks a little bit about snobbishness, which is a nice little segue
really? Does that exist?
From the red card. And I'll just quote from this because I want people to go to the Times of London, read the article. There's no paywall. It's well worth a read. I've heard it all, that Americans aren't good enough. They're not tough enough. There's a preconceived notion that we don't know what football is and I don't know how to play. And I'm just glad to see that Tim, bouncing back from being dropped after the Costa Rica debacle, is actually proving a lot of doubters wrong and having a great season. And at 30, looks like he, fingers crossed, will at least be in the playoffs with a good chance of getting back to the Premier League where he started with Bolton.
I hope they come back up. I guess it is the American angle that you talk about, but I've always had a soft spot for them. Love that stadium right on the river like that.
Yeah.
Just a fan of the whole.
Yeah, they're a traditional club, and I hope Tim gets back up because his last time in the Premier League wasn't long enough for him to get a good taste of it.
Let's see. My man of the match. I'm going to put this out there now. This is a really lame selection by me, but you know what? I'm going all in on it. PSG. Paris Saint-Germain.
Oh, really?
They won the French League Cup final for the 5th consecutive year this past Saturday after defeating Monaco by a score of 3-0. Kylian Mbappe put in a man-of-the-match performance, drew a penalty that set up Cavani's first goal, then assisted on Angel Di Maria's goal, and then assisted on Cavani's goal, his second goal to finish out the scoring. And how about this stat that I saw at Pro Soccer Talk? PSG, they're unbeaten in 40 straight domestic cup matches dating back to when they lost 2-1 to Montpellier in January of 2014. Cavani's 2 goals, his 34th and 35th of the season. It kind of with Neymar out, and you see Mbappe 2 assists in this game and draws a penalty. You see Cavani scoring 2 goals. He's now up to 35 this year. Yeah, Neymar obviously has the potential to take them to a different level, but you do wonder at some point if there was an embarrassment of riches here. If maybe, okay, if you want to spend money like that, that's fine, but maybe in hindsight it should have been allocated differently.
A more systematic approach.
Something.
Well, we basically spelled that out in a podcast 2 weeks ago.
Now, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I was saying that I believe that PSG were a worthy candidate to go on and win the Champions League, and I don't necessarily feel that I'm wrong. Real Madrid also are. They happen to play each other early in the competition. But I do wonder if PSG were to do this all over again, if they would do the same thing.
Different angle, I think.
Yeah. But nevertheless, they are my man of the match for winning a trophy this past weekend. So there you go. What a show.
What a show. Packed.
Yeah, our thanks to Alexi. I hope you had we didn't even talk about your Easter. Is there special food on Easter?
No, but kind of back home you'd have a lamb roast. So we went to the Churchill Tavern on Park and 28th Street, which in Manhattan, which is a very British style establishment named after Winston Churchill. And which pipes Winston Churchill speeches into the toilets. So as you have a wee, you can listen to him try and rally the troops in 1943.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
That's an invigorating urination.
The roast is very nice, and I had a pint of old speckled hen, which was actually kind of disrespectful because in Winston Churchill's previous career, he was involved in trying to suppress the Easter Rising in Ireland, which was the beginning of the movement for independence.
So your family is maybe horrified right now listening to this.
Oh, I sent my brother-in-law a picture of Winston Churchill that hangs above the fire.
Oh, so you owned it.
And he duly went and showed it to my father.
And he told on
who was disgusted.
That sounds like an Easter miracle.
And now I can't go home.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, bit of history there for you.
Well, I've been enjoying my matzah. I was unable to find the Afikoman this weekend, but to all of you out there who did, congratulations. I hope it was a glorious, glorious discovery for you. Hey, our thanks to Alexi Lalas. My thanks to you. Thanks to everybody that listened. We'll have another podcast this Wednesday, of course, after the first legs of the Champions League games take place.
I'm going to be a giddy mess.
We'll look back at what happened with Toronto.
What if I'm depressed? You're going to have to carry this show.
Oh, I can't handle that responsibility.
You're going to
just have to cancel, and we'll come back next week.
Don't do that.
All right, well, hey.
Take it later, fun boy.
I'll see you.
Take care.
You've been listening to the Caught Offside Soccer Podcast.
Next, you're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.